Despite my reservations, I continued to build our life together. However, the more I observed Ron's behavior, the more I realized how disconnected his lifestyle was from the reality I had grown accustomed to. His routine lacked substance, and his constant need for validation through material possessions and social media began to wear on me. One particular incident stands out. Ron had purchased an extraordinarily expensive watch which he flaunted online. It garnered a lot of attention, and his social media exploded with comments and likes. Yet, instead of feeling satisfied, Ron seemed more anxious and restless. He would constantly refresh his feed, looking for more approval. It was as if the high from his purchases and the subsequent validation was fleeting, leaving him in a perpetual state of wanting more. This cycle of consumption and validation was not only exhausting to watch but also concerning. Around this time I discovered I was pregnant. I was overjoyed, but Ron's reaction was mixed. While he expressed happiness, I noticed an underlying tension. It wasn't long before his family's suspicions and accusations began to surface. His sister accused me of trapping him with the pregnancy, implying that I was trying to secure a place in their wealthy family. This accusation was both hurtful and absurd. I had never once asked for financial support from Ron or his family. I had always been independent, priding myself on my ability to take care of myself. As my pregnancy progressed, I noticed a shift in Ron's behavior. He became more secretive and distant. One day I stumbled upon a stack of unopened bills hidden in his desk drawer. My curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to look through them. What I found shocked me. Ron was drowning in debt. There were credit card bills, personal loans, and overdue notices from various luxury brands. The life of opulence he projected was built on a shaky foundation of borrowed money. Confronting Ron about his debts was one of the hardest things I've ever done. He initially denied it, but when I showed him the bills, he broke down and admitted everything. He had been living beyond his means for years, trying to keep up appearances for his family and social media. The revelation was a devastating blow. The man I thought I knew was hiding a massive financial burden, one that could have serious implications for our future and the future of our child. Adding to the turmoil, I discovered that Ron had been lying to his family about our financial situation. He had told them that I was the one in debt, and that he was supporting me. This lie explained their hostility towards me and their constant suspicions about my intentions. I was furious and heartbroken. Not only had Ron deceived me, but he had also tarnished my reputation with his family. Determined to clear my name and address the situation, I decided to confront his family. I gathered all the evidence of Ron's debts and planned to reveal the truth to them. However, this was not an easy decision. I knew it would create a significant rift, but I could no longer tolerate the lies and accusations. When I finally met with his family, the tension was palpable. I laid out all the evidence, showing them the bills and explaining the true state of our finances. His mother was initially in disbelief, but as the evidence piled up, it became impossible to deny. His father was furious, not only at Ron but also at the situation as a whole. His sister, who had been the most vocal in her accusations, was visibly shocked. Ron tried to defend himself, claiming he was under immense pressure to maintain a certain lifestyle. However, his family was having none of it. They were angry and disappointed, not just because of the debt but because of the deceit. I made it clear that I had no intention of relying on their wealth, and had always been financially independent. This revelation seemed to soften their stance towards me, but the damage had already been done. The aftermath of this confrontation was chaotic. Ron's family demanded that he take responsibility for his actions and seek help to manage his debts. They also extended an apology to me, acknowledging that they had misjudged me based on Ron's lies. While this was a step towards mending the strained relationship, it did little to ease my personal turmoil. As Ron began to take steps to address his financial situation, our relationship remained strained. Trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. I struggled with the emotional weight of his deceit and the impact it had on our relationship. The impending arrival of our child added another layer of complexity. I wanted to provide a stable and loving environment for our baby, but I was uncertain about our future. Ron started attending financial counseling and working towards paying off his debts. This was a positive step, but the road ahead was long and challenging. I had to make a decision about our relationship. Could I forgive him and work towards rebuilding our life together, or was this the end of our journey as a couple? In the end, I decided to give our relationship a chance, but with clear boundaries and expectations. Ron had to demonstrate consistent effort in managing his finances and rebuilding trust. We also sought couples therapy to address the emotional wounds caused by his deception. It was a difficult and painful process, but I believed that our love and commitment could see us through. Months passed and gradually we began to find a new balance. Ron's financial situation improved, and our relationship started to heal. His family, though still wary, became more supportive. They appreciated my efforts to stand by Ron and help him through this difficult period. Despite the challenges, I felt a sense of hope for our future. As I reflect on this journey, I realize that trust and honesty are the foundations of any strong relationship. Ron's deception nearly destroyed us, but it also revealed the strength of our bond. We had to confront uncomfortable truths and work through immense pain, but in doing so, we emerged stronger and more resilient. Now, as we await the birth of our child, I am filled with a mix of emotions. The road ahead will undoubtedly have its challenges, but I am committed to building a loving and stable family. Ron's past mistakes have taught us valuable lessons about the importance of honesty, responsibility, and mutual support. While the scars of his deception will always remain, they serve as a reminder of our capacity to overcome adversity and rebuild our lives together. Even though it irked me a bit, the next thing he bought was a luxury sports car. I couldn't fathom how someone could pay so much money for just a four-wheeler. While all of this was happening, I noticed that he had zero interest in paying any of his bills. Even though we had agreed on splitting our bills, he would always end up telling me to pay everything, including his phone and cable bills, which I didn't even use. If I ever brought up the subject, he would tell me how we are partners and that, since he is letting me stay for free, I should help out more. It was frustrating, to say the least. Looking back, I don't think my issue was solely about paying his bills. It was more about the gut instinct I had that something about him just felt wrong. If he was wealthy enough to buy luxury shoes, clothes, and cars, then why did he need help paying bills? I was grateful that I could stay at his place rent-free, but I didn't mind paying rent and living on my own if that meant I would only pay my bills. Unlike him, I had a fixed budget and wanted to save as much money as I could so I could one day start a family. I felt like he needed to do the same, because if that was not our goal, then I didn't want to be with him. I decided to have a serious conversation where I told him all of this very frankly and gave him the option to break up with me if he and I were not on the same page. However, he assured me that he very much wanted to start a family with me, and that I was a dependable woman. He told me he was going to stop spending so much money. I thought everything would be fine after this. However, one day while cleaning his garage on a weekend when he was out golfing, I discovered that Ron had been living a facade in front of the whole world, including me. It turns out that most of what he flaunted was financed through debt and loans. His fancy car and his designer wardrobe were bought on credit. He had recent credit bills due, which he had absconded from paying. I was shaken when I went through the bills he had apparently hidden inside a shoebox. This meant he had knowingly kept this hidden from me. I was furious. I waited for him to get back from golfing with his friends. When he did come back, he saw me sitting with all of his bills right in front of the table, and he freaked out. He started yelling at me about why I went through the bills, and I told him how I knew everything and he could not hide from me anymore. Ron tried to backtrack, telling me how these were just a few bills, and he was working on repaying them. I asked him why he had not just repaid them already, since he was bringing in an income every month from his job. This is when Ron confessed to me that he had been out of a job for the last 4 months. I was shocked by this revelation, since he had been going into the office once a week as usual for the last 4 months. The rest of the days we would text while I was at the office, and he was supposedly working from home. I asked him how this happened and why he never told me about it. Ron opened up about how his boss was difficult and had gone back on his words, pushing for Ron to go to the office every day since the company was taking on more clients and Ron needed to have more face-to-face meetings. However, Ron felt it was disrespectful, and he and the boss had a disagreement which resulted in his boss sacking him. Ron went on to tell me how it was not a big deal and that he would get a job quickly when he started to apply. My eyes widened in shock as I asked him what he had been doing for the past 4 months if he had yet to apply for a job. Ron replied that he was taking a break for his mental health and that I should not blame him for any of this. I told him that even if he had lost his job, it didn't make sense as to why he was not able to pay bills, since he did apparently come from a wealthy family. Ron told me how he did ask his parents for help, but they had refused. He went off about how his parents clearly favored his older sister Mo and how unfair this was. I felt like my entire relationship with him had been a lie. The illusion he had portrayed of himself was starting to come down. Clearly he was not wealthy, and that is why he depended on me to pay his bills while his unemployed self could continue to buy luxury items and post about them on social media. I told him very firmly that I loved him, but that this was not something I signed up for. I told him that I knew exactly how it felt to be broke and I had worked really hard to come out of it, so I was not going to let anyone drag me down to that place ever again. I informed him that if he didn't agree to change his ways right that second and show me through actions, I would be out of his house with my things that very evening. I guess seeing me this upset really got through to Ron. He immediately apologized to me and sat down to discuss ways to deal with his bills. I told him that he needed to sell his car, pay back all his credit card bills, and stop buying any luxurious items for a while. Ron tried to refuse, telling me how people were going to judge him and how his friends were going to make fun of him. I told him that I honestly didn't care about any of that because he had mounting debts that needed to be resolved first. He tried to ask me if I could help him pay off some of the loan, but I refused and let him know that this was his responsibility, and I would be paying off our monthly bills and taking care of any daily expenses. I let him know that until he took proactive measures to lessen his debt, I would not feel comfortable discussing a future with him. Begrudgingly, he agreed. Over the following months, Ron took proactive steps to address his debts. We put his car up for sale, and since it was a sports car, we got lucky because we got enough from the sale to pay back his loan and keep a little extra to pay back his other bills. Next, he cut back on unnecessary expenses and focused on repaying his credit card bills. As you can imagine, it was a challenging time for him since he was not used to cutting back on anything. There were moments of frustration and doubt, but I would encourage him to work hard to regain control of his finances. Eventually, Ron managed to clear a significant portion of his debt, and I felt proud of the fact that he was trying. We did discuss him getting a job, but this is when Ron opened up to me about his plan to start his own business. He told me that he had an entrepreneurial spirit and wanted to explore that. I was vehemently against this, as I am far more risk-averse than Ron. I knew he could be very fickle-minded at times, and I didn't know for sure if he had the determination to concentrate on building his business. However, he had worked hard to pay off his debt, so I admittedly didn't fight much. During this time, Ron proposed to me, which took me by surprise. He told me how he had listened to all my demands and had paid off his debt, so now we could concentrate on starting a family together. I told him yes because, at the end of the day, I did love him, and all I wanted was for him to keep working hard, just like I did, so we could both build a life together. He did inform me that his parents were unaware that he would be proposing, so he was a bit nervous to tell them. When he called to inform his parents, they told him that even though they were happy for him and would support him, they really did not expect that he would end up with someone like me. On the other hand, my parents were happy for me. We had a small wedding because I did not want to spend too much money and mess up our credit after Ron had just come out of debt. My parents graciously stepped in to help with the expenses for our wedding, and I took out money from my savings to pay for our wedding. Ron's contributions, on the other hand, were minimal despite his family's supposed wealth. When our guests marveled at the elegance of the event, some even assumed that Ron and his family had probably footed the bill. Throughout all this, Ron remained silent, never correcting their assumptions or acknowledging the truth, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment. It was disheartening to see him bask in the false praise, especially knowing that he had been unemployed for months and hadn't contributed financially as much as one would expect. His parents also shamelessly never corrected anyone, and maybe it was because they felt guilty, but they decided to pay for our honeymoon, which was unexpected of them. Our honeymoon was a beautiful destination in the Maldives. It was an experience of a lifetime, and I must admit, Ron did seem genuinely happy during our time there. However, I couldn't shake off the underlying worry about our financial future. Even though his parents had paid for the trip, I knew we couldn't rely on their generosity forever. Upon returning, the reality of our situation hit us again. Ron was still unemployed, and his business idea was still just that, an idea. Ron spent his days researching and planning his business. He was passionate about starting a tech company focused on developing innovative apps. While I admired his enthusiasm, I was also concerned about the practicalities. I had to shoulder the financial responsibilities, working extra hours to ensure we could cover our expenses. It was tiring, and there were days when I felt overwhelmed, but I tried to remain supportive. Months went by, and Ron's business began to take shape. He secured a small office space with the help of some friends who believed in his vision. He hired a couple of developers, and they started working on their first app. It was a stressful time, but seeing Ron dedicated to something meaningful gave me hope. Despite the progress, the financial strain was evident. We had to make sacrifices, cutting down on luxuries and unnecessary expenses. I continued to manage our household finances meticulously, ensuring we stayed afloat. Ron's parents occasionally helped out, but their support was sporadic and unpredictable. They still seemed reluctant to fully back Ron's business venture, which added to his stress. Then, a breakthrough happened. Ron's app, designed to help people manage their personal finances, gained traction, It started getting positive reviews, and downloads increased steadily. Investors took notice, and Ron managed to secure some seed funding. It was a turning point for us. The financial pressure eased a bit, and Ron's confidence soared. With the funding, Ron expanded his team and improved the app. The company started generating revenue, and for the first time in a long while, we could breathe a little easier. I continued to work, but the burden of being the sole breadwinner was lifted. Ron's business, although still in its early stages, showed promise and potential for growth. As Ron's business grew, so did our relationship. We became more aligned in our goals and dreams. The initial hurdles and financial struggles had strengthened our bond. We learned to communicate better and support each other in ways we hadn't before. Ron's entrepreneurial journey taught him the value of hard work and resilience, and I saw a more responsible and determined side of him. Eventually, Ron's company became successful. The app was a hit, and they developed more products that were well received in the market. We moved to a better apartment, and our financial worries diminished. Ron's parents, seeing his success, finally acknowledged his achievements and offered their full support. Looking back, the journey was tough, but it was worth it. We had faced numerous challenges, from financial struggles to personal disagreements, but we emerged stronger. Ron's transformation from a spendthrift to a successful entrepreneur was incredible to witness. I learned that with love, patience, and determination, we could overcome any obstacle. Today, we are in a much better place. Ron's business continues to thrive, and we are planning to start a family. The lessons we learned along the way have shaped us into better partners, and we are excited about the future. Our story is a testament to the fact that even in the face of adversity, love and perseverance can lead to success and happiness. After our wedding, we accepted the situation because we might not have gone on a honeymoon otherwise. During the honeymoon, Ron focused on launching his own social media agency, a dream he had long harbored. He envisioned working with brands and hiring influencers, a potentially lucrative business. However, the reality was much more challenging. The market was saturated with hundreds of similar agencies, making it incredibly difficult to stand out. As days turned into weeks, I frequently came home to his complaints. He struggled to secure influencers for events or lost those who were unwilling to negotiate. Additionally, brands were hesitant to work with new agencies, making it difficult for him to gain their trust and sign them up. Consequently, the business never generated any income, leading me to sometimes beg him to find a traditional 9-to-5 job, even if it wasn't as exciting. Ron would get angry, insisting he needed time, and that he was determined to succeed. Despite attending numerous events and meeting countless influencers, his business remained unsuccessful and unreliable. This added to my growing frustration, as I was the sole breadwinner, working tirelessly every waking hour. I would come home to an even longer list of tasks: unwashed dishes, piles of laundry, and a dog that needed walking. On top of this, Ron expected me to cook while he told me about the bills that needed to be paid. If I ever mentioned my work stress, he would dismiss it, saying he was glad he left his job because he couldn't handle being as stressed as I was. This infuriated me, because I was the one shouldering all financial responsibilities with my stressful job while he partied at various events every day. As time passed, I gradually started to resent him more and more. We did nothing but watch TV together, and it was becoming suffocating. On weekends, I slept a lot, because I was constantly burned out from working all week. If I asked him to help with chores, he would say starting a business required 100% of his energy and that, as his partner, I should be more understanding. This dynamic only exacerbated my feelings of frustration and resentment. Last month, amidst all this stress, I found out I was pregnant. I had always imagined being pregnant and having a baby, but this was not how I envisioned starting a family. When bringing a child into the world, you want them to have a stable home and 2 supportive parents. However, in our case, I was the only one providing, and Ron was not contributing to the household. If I had a child, I would have to do even more work on top of everything I was already doing. I decided to talk to him about my concerns. Unlike me, Ron was ecstatic and hugged me, expressing his excitement about becoming a father. When I mentioned how exhausted I felt around the house, and that having a baby would increase my workload, he agreed and promised to start taking on responsibilities. In the past weeks, Ron has stepped up, though I still do 80% of the housework, including cooking, cleaning, and laundry. He now cleans the dishes, takes out the trash, and walks the dog. I hoped we could improve over time. This past weekend, he told me he was going to visit his family, so I decided to tag along to announce the pregnancy together. I didn't expect his parents to be thrilled, but their reactions were worse than anticipated. When I announced the pregnancy, their faces fell. His mother and sister scoffed at me, giving me dirty looks, while his dad looked down as if I had made a grave mistake. His mother told me it was ridiculous to bring a child into our marriage with the problems we were facing. I asked her to clarify, but she ignored me and excused herself from the table. Ron and I decided to leave because the mood was spoiled, and I had no idea why. On our way back, I asked him about his mother's comments, but he claimed he had no idea and suggested he continue meeting his family alone since they upset me. I felt angry and disappointed because I had done nothing wrong to deserve such treatment from his family. With a baby on the way, I hoped we could all let go of the past for the sake of the child. Yesterday, while at work, I received a call from my sister-in-law, which was unusual. I immediately picked up, thinking something had happened to Ron or their parents. During our conversation, she revealed that Ron had told them I had massive debts and that he was the one paying for everything by selling his car and sacrificing luxury brands. I was stunned. She said she couldn't let her brother suffer more and accused me of trapping him with the pregnancy. I was furious. Ron had lied to his family about my financial situation to save face, blaming me for his failures. I was working hard day and night at a job I disliked to pay our bills while he continued to deceive everyone. I didn't bother explaining to my sister-in-law and simply told her she was right, that I shouldn't trap him since he was unworthy of being a father. I then informed my boss that I wasn't feeling well and went home. Knowing Ron was out meeting an influencer, I quickly packed my things and moved out with my dog. I didn't leave a note and just drove away with everything I owned in my car. Since yesterday, I've been staying at my parents' place while Ron has been frantically calling me, saying he can explain everything and begging me to come back home. My parents don't know the details yet but understand it's serious, so they haven't asked many questions. I'm at a crossroads. On one hand, I'm pregnant and want my child to have a father. On the other hand, I don't want to be with someone who has been lying about me while I provided for him. The betrayal is deep and cutting. I dedicated myself to supporting our family, while he concocted stories to maintain his pride. I am seriously contemplating divorcing my husband after what my sister-in-law revealed. His deception makes me question not just his commitment but also his character. Is this the kind of environment I want to bring a child into? My parents, while not fully informed, have sensed the gravity of the situation and have offered their silent support. It's a relief to have a place where I feel secure. But the future remains uncertain. The thought of raising a child in such instability is daunting. The lies Ron told his family paint a picture of me that is not only untrue but deeply hurtful. How can I trust someone who could fabricate such damaging stories? I'm grappling with the reality that the man I married may not be the partner I need. His enthusiasm for fatherhood seems genuine, but his actions have consistently shown a lack of responsibility and honesty. Balancing my emotions is exhausting. I want to believe he can change, but the evidence suggests otherwise. His recent attempts to reach out seem more like a scramble to save face than a genuine effort to mend our relationship. The decision ahead is monumental. Do I give Ron another chance, risking further disappointment and stress? Or do I make the difficult choice to end our marriage and raise my child independently? Every option feels heavy with consequences. The ideal of a stable, two-parent household feels increasingly out of reach. I know I deserve better, and so does my child. This clarity is painful but necessary. As I sit in my childhood home, I reflect on the vows we took and the promises we made. They feel hollow now, overshadowed by the weight of his deception. Moving forward, I need to prioritize my well-being and that of my unborn child. This is not the life I envisioned, but it's the reality I must face. The path to healing and rebuilding will be challenging, but it's a journey I must undertake. For my child's sake and mine, I need to make the best decision, even if it means walking away from the person I once thought I would spend my life with. Update 1. I spoke with my parents about everything, and like everyone else on Reddit, they agree that I need to leave my husband. What he has done is truly unforgivable. He went to great lengths to lie about me over the years, despite my being nothing but a good and loyal partner. His audacity in claiming that my debt was actually his shows that I can't trust him. I am planning to talk to him and inform him of my decision to divorce him. Update 2. It has been a week since my last update. I talked with my husband 2 days ago. He had been calling and texting me for days and even contacted my parents, who told him I was staying with them but didn't provide further details. He came to my parents' house yesterday so we could talk. He was clearly shaken and immediately started to apologize. I asked if he even knew what he was apologizing for. He nodded, explaining that after I left he called everyone and his sister told him about our conversation, helping him piece everything together. I asked why he would make such atrocious lies about me and how insulted I felt when his sister accused me of baby trapping him. He nodded remorsefully, explaining that he has always felt insecure around his family. He told me that his parents only cared about wealth and status, so he was too embarrassed to tell them the truth. Instead, he found it easier to blame me, telling them I was in debt, and he was helping me out. He admitted he never thought it would be a big deal since I wasn't close to his family anyway. I shook my head in disappointment and told him I had no idea he could be so disgusting and manipulative. I reminded him how hard I had worked over the years to provide for us. Yet here he was, shamelessly admitting his betrayal. I informed him that I was divorcing him. Hearing this, he started pleading with me not to go through with it, saying we should think about the baby. I told him we didn't have to be married to co-parent our child, and that the child would be happier growing up in a stable environment, free from the tension and discord in our relationship. Despite his pleas, I remained resolute in my decision to end the marriage. It was clear that staying together was no longer healthy for either of us. Subjecting my child to a tumultuous household filled with arguments and resentment is not something I'm willing to entertain. He pleaded a bit more but eventually had to leave when he saw I wasn't going to change my mind. He tried to apologize to my parents before leaving, but they looked at him with disappointment and did not respond. Update 3. Many of you have suggested that I reach out to his family and clarify everything. While I don't want to see them, I do think it's right to tell them the truth. So I sat down and wrote a long email to his parents and sister yesterday, detailing every expenditure I've ever paid for Ron, along with screenshots of payments from my bank account. I explained that he was the one with debt and bills piling up while he continued buying luxury items. I let them know that I wanted nothing from them, and that Ben was free to walk away from our child if he wished, but he would be liable to pay child support every month. I informed them of my decision to divorce Ben and told them they could finally have their wish and marry him off to a wealthier woman. Since my email, Ben has been texting me furiously, because his parents and sister are now bombarding him, furious at him for lying about me. They have even called me, but I haven't picked up. His sister sent me a text apologizing for what she said and pleading with me not to leave the family. Honestly, I do not care about their apologies or opinions at this point. I have already made my decision to move forward with the divorce, and I will be meeting a divorce lawyer next week. Regarding my pregnancy, I am determined to provide a stable and loving environment for my baby, even if it means co-parenting with Ron separately. I have the support of my family and am confident that I can handle the challenges ahead as a single parent. Thank you to everyone who has offered advice and support during this difficult time. This will be my last update as I want to concentrate on myself and my baby. More long. ChatGPT. Update 1. I spoke with my parents about everything that's been happening, and like everyone else on Reddit, they agree that I need to leave my husband. What he has done is truly unforgivable. He went to great lengths to lie about me over the years, even though I have been nothing but a good and loyal partner to him. The audacity he had to lie and say that it was my debt just goes to show that I can't trust him. I am planning to talk to him and let him know my decision to divorce him. Update 2. It's been a week since my last update. I talked with my husband 2 days ago. He had been calling and texting me non-stop, trying to reach me. He even contacted my parents, who informed him that I was staying with them, but they didn't clarify anything else. He came over to my parents' place yesterday so we could talk. He was visibly shaken and immediately started to apologize. I asked him if he even knew what he was apologizing for, and he nodded, explaining that after I had left, he had called everyone he knew. His sister had informed him that she had a conversation with me, and from there he pieced everything together. I asked him why he would make such atrocious lies about me, and how insulted I felt when his sister called to tell me that I was baby-trapping him. He nodded remorsefully, and went on to tell me how he has always felt insecure around his family members. He said that all his parents cared about was their wealth and status, so he was too embarrassed to tell anyone the truth. He went on to say that when his family inquired about where his car was, it was just easier for him to blame me and tell them a story about how I was in debt and he was helping me out, rather than owning up to his mistakes. He told me that he never thought it would be a big deal since I wasn't close to his family anyway. I shook my head in disappointment and told him that I had no idea he could be this disgusting and manipulative. I reminded him of how much I had worked over the years to provide for us, yet here he was admitting, shamelessly, how easily he had betrayed me. I informed him that I was divorcing him. Hearing this, he started to plead with me not to go through with it, telling me how we should think about the baby. But I informed him that we didn't have to be married to co-parent our child. I pointed out to him that the child would be much happier growing up in a stable environment, free from the tension and discord in our relationship. Despite his pleas, I remained resolute in my decision to end the marriage. Clearly, we had reached a point where staying together was no longer healthy for either of us. The thought of subjecting my child to a tumultuous household filled with arguments and resentment is not something I'm willing to entertain. He pleaded a bit more. But in the end, he had to leave when he saw that I wasn't going to change my mind. He did try to apologize to my parents before leaving, but they looked at him with disappointment and did not respond to his apology. Update 3. A lot of you have suggested I reach out to his family and clarify everything. While I don't want to see them, I do think it is right for me to tell them the truth once and for all. Hence, I sat down and wrote a long email to his parents and sister yesterday, detailing every expenditure I've ever paid for Ron, along with screenshots of payments from my bank account. I wrote about how he was the one with debt and had bills piling up while he kept buying one luxury item after another. I let them know that I wanted nothing from them and that Ben was free to walk away from our child if that is what he wished. However, he would be liable to pay child support every month. I let them know my decision to divorce Ben and told them how they could finally have their wish and marry him off to a much wealthier woman. Since my email, Ben has been texting me furiously because his parents and sister are now bombarding him with their anger, furious at him for lying about me. They have even called me, but I haven't bothered picking up their calls. His sister sent me a text apologizing for what she said and is pleading with me not to leave the family. Honestly, I do not care about their apologies or their opinions at this point. I have already made my decision to move forward with the divorce, so I will be meeting a divorce lawyer next week. Update 4. As for my pregnancy, I am determined to provide a stable and loving environment for my baby, even if it means co-parenting with Ron separately. I have the support of my family and I am confident that I can handle the challenges ahead as a single parent. The well-being of my child is my top priority, and I will do everything in my power to ensure a safe and nurturing environment for them. I have started looking into prenatal classes and support groups for single mothers to help me prepare for the journey ahead. I know it will be challenging, but I am ready to face it with strength and determination. I've also been working on setting up a nursery and making necessary arrangements for the baby's arrival. My parents have been incredibly supportive, helping me with everything from shopping for baby essentials to offering emotional support. Their encouragement has been invaluable, and it reassures me that I am making the right decision. Update 5. Thank you to everyone who has offered advice and support during this difficult time. Your kind words and encouragement have meant a lot to me. I am now focusing on healing and preparing for the future. This will be my last update as I want to concentrate on myself and my baby. The road ahead may be tough, but I am determined to move forward and build a happy, healthy life for myself and my child. Thank you again for your support.